This case posed a very existential question for our identity as probably people living in this land. Who is Ram? Whether he was born, whether he's reality. Very intuitively and instinctively he responded. He's saying that nobody is going to go empty handed from my Ram.
So, if he's exercising his own individual right, of course, he's no longer a judge. Who can stop him?
I think truth has a great quality of acceptance. Unfortunately, misinformation and malice driven narratives actually clouded the entire environment. This book, in a way, is a tribute to the Indian judiciary, the bar, and the bench.
After decades of litigation and deeply polarizing public sentiment, the Supreme Court in 2019, in the Ram Janmabhoomi and Babri Masjid case, unanimously held that the entire disputed land in Ayodhya would be handed over to the construction of a Ram temple, while simultaneously directing 5 acres of alternate land to be allotted to the Sunni Waqf Board for a mosque. Apart from the court battle, there were many interesting facets to this case, like the legendary 92-year-old K. Parasaran sir's return into the courtroom to argue the case from the Hindu side. In their new book, Case for Ram, Senior Advocate Sridhar Potaraju and Advocate Anirudh Sharma, who were then juniors to Parasaran sir, offer a lawyer's eye view of how history was argued and written. Thank you for joining us, sir, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
What prompted you to write Case for Ram? Was it a sense of historical responsibility, or did you feel like this was your emotional responsibility and duty towards the nation?
See, actually, after the case ended, we got a lot of queries. And first, we tried helping others to write this. When nothing came about, then we decided to write it ourselves. And of course, this was a story that we had seen. It looked like straight from a soap opera, but it was a real story that we saw of Mr. Parasaran working against all odds and laws of nature to actually do this case and stand and argue for 4 days. And this had historical connotations. So we felt this story has to be told in a common man's language for everyone to understand, because this also in a way is a story of India's civilization.
Sir?
See, it's a question of India's civilizational identity. If you look at India, I mean, across the length and breadth, Ram is something which is a part of every household. So, right from greetings as Ram Ram and all other things around it, he is the benchmark for good conduct. So, I mean, for us as a Telugu, we always refer to a good boy as like he's like Ram. So that's the measure of Ram for our country. Now, this case posed a very existential question for our identity as probably people living in this land. Who is Ram? Whether he was born, whether he's reality. If you contrast it with the way other nations are celebrating Ramayana as a part of their civilization and cultural heritage, it's a very great irony that in India, we are quite reluctant and then we actually try to label Ram as a mythological character as against a Itihasa Purusha, as we would like to refer to him. So it was, in a sense, a responsibility which we felt we owed to the civilization and the nation and every Ram Bhakt to tell the story of the history being made.
Your book contains some deeply touching and personal moments with K. Parasaran sir. And would you like to share some anecdotes about his health or maybe about his passion for the case? I'm sure our audience would love to know about it.
See, here is a man who's 92-year-old, who has already achieved the highest office a lawyer would aspire to as a young law graduate. The highest one can aspire to be as a lawyer would be the Attorney General's office. He had adorned it for the longest period of time, decades ago. So there was really not much for him to aspire or prove either to himself or to anybody else. But here he was in court, as Anirudh put it, fighting nature and the challenges of age, as he would call it, to stand up for a cause which he believed in. And that gave him the strength, and that actually ensured that he undermined the challenges and the medical advice which was given to him. See, he would put in long hours, like say 12 to 14 hours a day at 92, preparing for the case. So he would very reluctantly leave the chambers around 9:30 in the evening, and then would be ready in the office by the time we would reach, say, around 7:38. And he would say, I got up early at 4:30, so I started working on my notes. So I mean, just imagine, for a youngster, he's a role model for us at this time. And having spent about more than almost 3 decades for me and more than 2.5 decades for Anirudh in the profession, it's so inspiring, the discipline, the dedication. So here we would like to present through this book a role model for youngsters. How to be. It's not, he's one person, you don't get to see him preach on 9 o'clock TV or otherwise. He practices it. So it's very difficult for others to know about the discipline, dedication, and the ethics that he practices, and really rarely speaks about it. You won't get to see many of his interviews also. So his physical challenges on one side, but the discipline, the dedication that he brings to work ethic, that's something which I think needs to be known for every youngster, irrespective of which profession they're pursuing.
Were there any moments where you felt like he was younger to you because of the amount of work he would put in? Like, I've read the book, and there are so many accounts of where he would just show up despite his medical, cases.
See, one of the days he was running temperature. He had to start. His notes were misplaced. Right, he was having pain in his eyes. Glaucoma was there, and he was not in an absolutely fit state of mind because of all this. And suddenly he was called up to argue. He expected his turn to come the next day, but suddenly the court called him up to argue. So, that point of time we were very worried about his physical health, but he just overcame everything. We would have not been able to had we had so much of trouble. And then to go back home and again start working and then get up again at 4:30 a.m. or sometimes, he might be thinking it's 4:30 a.m., but it might have been 3 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. Right. So it's like 24/7 his energy of, he could work 24/7 virtually at that age.
That's
We can't do
legendary.
that.
That's legendary. Could you take us back to the day the judgment was delivered, and how was it being around Parasaran sir that day, or how was it the day it was delivered?
I had the privilege of receiving him in the airport. He came by a special aircraft from Chennai, and I can share this. He called me, I mean, or rather, I called him back because I got to know that he was in the Chennai airport by late night, expecting a special flight to bring him to Delhi. So around 11:30, very with trepidation, I called him. He said, Sridhar, I'm waiting for the aircraft. There's some problem. So I'll be here for some time. So you do one thing. You come to the airport in the morning, and then get me some breakfast. It's been very long since I've eaten. A 92-year-old man. See the human side. He spent virtually the entire night waiting in the airport in Chennai before his aircraft reached. It had to there was some technical issues for the first aircraft, so there was a second aircraft, I believe. Not sure about it, but he landed here at about 7:30. So I went to receive him, and then we drove straight to the Supreme Court. It was all fortified. It was a Saturday morning. The entire court premises were fortified. So en route, I was having a small conversation with him, and I asked him, like, with your experience, what do you think intuitively? What is going to happen today in the judgment? Very intuitively and instinctively, he responded. He's saying that nobody is going to go empty-handed from my Ram. So his faith in his own Ram, and as well as the sense of justice that he had at heart, I think is something which all of us can really look up to and probably get inspired by. He's a statesman in that sense. Though he was representing one side, he doesn't have anything which would take away his own kindness or compassion or empathy for anyone, irrespective of which side or who is there on the other side. He is a very compassionate, empathetic person. In fact, the warmth that he receives from across the bar, including the counselor on the other side, Dr. Rajiv Dhawan, the amount of warmth and affection they had mutually for each other. Mr. Ejaz Makbul, I mean, amazing person. So I think that's something really speaks volumes about the camaraderie at the bar. And thanks to the leadership of Parasaran sir, all sides were in that sense together as a bar.
You have dedicated a part of the book about the debate around a juristic person, getting into the legal aspect of the book. Could you elaborate something on the internal discussions and how they eventually reconciled the debate around, the land being a juristic person?
See, I mean, uh, Mr. Parasaran's team had full freedom of expression. So that freedom of expression resulted also in a lot of differences between the team members. Right, when you're having an intellectual debate, that is very much possible. So those debates were quite intense. And to begin with, the team was extremely divided. The divisions grew as time grew. However, towards the end, Mr. Parasaran I mean, his presence and his own intellectual inputs ensured that those divisions are solved, and the team speaks in one voice. So it's not that there were not divisions. The team did have fissures on intellectual points. So that was how it was.
And do you think these debates shaped the eventual narrative of the case in the court after the judgment was out as well?
See, what happens is that, just to supplement before I come back to your point, see, when he speaks about divisions, it was an intellectual engagement that we are talking about. Because everyone was bringing a dimension or a perspective to the discussion table so that we are ironing out all the creases that would arise either from the other side or probably challenges coming from the bench. So we were given that freedom to express our perspective on a legal proposition and then develop it and then iron out the challenges that could come across. Now, insofar as the debates post judgment is concerned, it's see, we are a free country, anyone and everyone has their own views. But insofar as we are concerned, in the facts of the case, certain determinations have been made, and that's the judgment of the court. So I think we all respect the judgment of the court, and that's the way a constitutional democracy ought to work.
Fair enough. Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud recently sparked a debate with his comments distinguishing the desecration of a mosque from the destruction of an idol, which some saw linked to the aspects of the Ayodhya reasoning in the judgment as well. Given your close involvement in the case, how do you view these remarks, both of you?
See, debates are good. Everyone has a right to express their opinion. So there is a debate going on in the society. So I mean, there's nothing positive or negative about it. It's just a debate going on.
Absolutely. He was a judge involved in the bench as well. So, do you see the echoes of his reasoning in how the court approached the dispute as well?
See, as a judge, a person is different sitting on the chair. And as an individual, he has certain rights which a judge does not have. So, if he's exercising his own individual right, of course, he's no longer a judge. Who can stop him? But he's not invoking his existence as a judge, because that's over.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Would you like to add something?
See, I think as Anirudh has said, ultimately every citizen has the right to express themselves. Now, your experiences as a human being and your professional capacity always shape your thought and outlook. So there is certain things that you express as a person, as an individual, and there are things that you do while holding an office, a high constitutional office. So I think one should understand the difference between the two and not confuse. See, if we confuse these things, I'll tell you, there'll be a serious challenge because more often than not, we see a lot of retired judges talking about human rights, etc. Then are we to re examine the orders passed by them, granting bail in certain cases? So I think we need to understand the difference between the two and then appreciate that while they are occupying an office, they are performing their duties of the office in accordance with the oath that they have taken. And once they demit the office, they express themselves with the experience which stays with them and then also express themselves as an individual with their intellectual abilities and capabilities. So if you start reading backwards after their retirement, then it's going to be creating a lot of challenges for a system to work.
Fair enough. The Ayodhya verdict also has been praised and critiqued for trying to balance faith and constitutional principles. As lawyers who witnessed the case unfold, did you see Supreme Court navigate that tension between religious belief and secular adjudication? What was your personal takes on it, and as people working on the case?
So your question has an inherent, you know, thinking to it that this issue was a constitutional law issue. There was a specific order of the Supreme Court saying that constitutional law issues, as raised by Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, will be taken up later. This was a plain and simple civil law dispute where we have every day of various religions, subsects of religions finding case against each others, and also various religions filing case against each other. This has happened right from the days of the British rule, and we have judgments from those days. So it's nothing new. And this case was decided in that light, in terms of the evidence there. And that evidence also includes evidence of practice of faith. So if evidence of practice of faith can be brought in, faith comes in as evidence. And it is not a right to faith which is adjudicated, but evidence of faith which is demonstrable and historical, which any party can bring to the court, and this trend has continued right from British days till this date.
Got it. Moving forward, the book has a lot of mentions and quotes from the daily court reporting during day-to-day hearings in the court, like Indian Express, Live Law, latest laws. And since this was a heavily public interest matter, how do you think it shaped the public's mind at large, the reporting that was going through, since it was back then in 2019 when the hearing was happening? How do you think it reshaped or modified the public's mind, the reporting that was happening at that time?
I think the reporting in this case has actually educated the nation about the nuances of the issues. And we actually have acknowledged the contribution of all those who were covering the day-to-day hearings. See, the amount of effort put in by our colleagues. Bhadra was there, Mala Dikshit, Dhananjay Mahapatra. There's so many of our colleagues.
The portals like Supreme
So
Court
Live
Observer, Live
Law.
Law.
So all of them, Supreme Court Observer, I mean,
Live
so
Law
all,
also.
yeah,
Yes.
I mean, so they all observed the proceedings and reported it, and then dissemination of information. So we became a more informed society. So the engagement was more informed, and that actually enabled people to understand the subtleties of the arguments. And also, eventually, when the judgment came, the acceptance was very natural and organic. If you look at it, see, there were statements made which were highlighted as concessions made on substantial questions of evidence, whether there was any worship at all prior to 1857 or there was any evidence of worship pre 1857 by the other side. Whereas the admitted evidence on all sides was that people continuously believed that the Janmasthan was being worshipped with or without barricades at all times. So therefore, that was a very consistent evidence coming from both sides. So I think that enabled the society to accept truth. I think truth has a great quality of acceptance. Unfortunately, misinformation and malice-driven narratives actually clouded the entire environment. So, a good reporting and a contemporaneous reporting from divergent perspectives enabled the country to know what exactly was happening and then draw their own conclusions. Even in this book, we encourage people to actually refer to the footnotes, go read them, and then please form your opinions. We are a civilization of seekers. For us, there's no the truth. We keep pursuing the truth. That is the journey. I mean people have come across the world for centuries here to understand what is this land about seekers. So therefore, we as citizen born here, we are seeking the truth, and in that process this adjudication has to be understood, and therefore the organic acceptance in the society was also there thanks to good reporting.
Well, all about good reporting. So did So this good reporting also led to a lot of public opinions that were there in while the hearing were happening every single day. Did you like? I'm sure you must be aware of the public opinion at large at that time. Did it ever reshape or modify the team's views, or like how you researched around the case, or Parasaran sir's being around him? So did it ever reshape or modify the views that y'all had?
See, our top counsels, Mr. Parasaran, Mr. Vaidyanathan, Mr. Ranjit Kumar, they're all top lawyers of the country. They're all seasoned. So a little bit of opinion here and there does not matter to them. In fact, even a lot of opinion does not matter to them. What matters to them is the case record. Mr. Parasaran is a walking encyclopedia of Indian law, of British law, of Roman law, of Tamil literature, of Sanskrit literature. So nothing would perturb him, and just that age was a problem, health was a problem, getting temperature off and on was a problem. When he recovered his health, then he did not require, in fact, any assistance or anything. He could just argue extempore on any branch of law. But the challenge here was, of course, of the voluminous document, and he wanted to have everything at the back of his mind, though he may not be covering that evidence. But that is how he is. If he is doing something, he has to know everything. Even if he is not doing everything, anything with respect to a case, take it from us that he would be knowing everything about the law involved in that case.
That's very good to know, sir. Lastly, coming to the last question, this book, Case for Ram, goes beyond history. Actually, it feels like a story of mentorship, discipline, and persistence, for that matter. So, what do you hope young lawyers and law students reading this book take away from your experience, both about like practice of law and about the ethos of advocacy?
See, I think this book, in a way, is a tribute to the Indian judiciary, the bar, and the bench. See, I mean, unfortunately, it's very easy to actually criticize an institution of the kind that is serving the nation and enabling the resolution of conflicts and disputes of the volume that they do. And people only look at the pendencies, they don't look at the deliveries, the resolutions, and the challenges being faced. So,
The
in
workload.
this book, we try to take you inside the biggest case to ever happen in the history of humankind, with the volumes of records, the centuries traversed, and then the manner in which both sides, I mean, we have great regard for the efforts put in by our colleagues at the bar. See, at bar, we are all together, absolutely together. We, as professionals, represents divergent perspectives, and then we assist the court to arrive its conclusions. So that is the process.
Yes, the
So
lead
in-
counsels for the other side, Dr. Dhawan and Ms. Meenakshi Arora, Mr. Jilani, the amount of effort and the academic input that they brought into the case was tremendous.
we were all in admiration of their performance. See, when you as a professional see somebody in their flow, as you call it, it's amazing experience. You for a moment forget whether he's on your side or the other side. You enjoy the moment. So I think it's for every young student of law or a young lawyer to identify these niceties which has come out of this particular very contested matter, but the camaraderie at the bar is something which we need to celebrate. And honestly, every day before 10:30 we'll all be warmly exchanging ki bahut thak gaya, did you get to sleep or not, kitne baje soye, page number complete hua ki nahi, and these challenges again 1 to 2 we are running to just catch up, and then post 4 o'clock have a grin at each other and chalo conference shuru.
Like from the other side also, there were surgeries being postponed,
Both
marriage
sides.
engagements being postponed, right?
For the
Yeah.
case
To-
to go forward.
yes, yeah. So to be able to, just concentrate on the case.
That is some amount of commitment that needs
See,
to
I
be
mean,
applauded.
This issue was languishing in Indian courts for 70 years. Just imagine.
So
So,
some-
but that has given us a very nice explanation when the complaints come from our clients कि हमारे मैटर में कितना टाइम लग रहा है, तो we conveniently say राम लाला को तो 70 साल लगे, अब उनसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है तो बता दो.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the insightful and rich conversation. Case for Ram offers a behind-the-scenes account of how the case was actually argued in the court. It's a reflection on how law faith and the constitutional duty intersect in making modern India. And I am sure our readers and viewers would enjoy reading the book just as much as I did. This is the book Case for Ram. Thank you so much for the conversation. Congratulations on the new book.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.